Welcome back to Burn to Notice, the series that analyzes the actions of Michael Weston and his crew. If you are new to the series, there is a link in the description down below to catch you up. This episode begins with Sam combing through trash in order to find Carla's sniper, Bill Johnson, and immediately Sam ruins his pants and shoes. But while looking through the trash, Mike sees telltale signs that this Bill is the right one. When Mike returns home, a ghost shows up, Larry, an old friend of Mike's who used to be dead, so Mike checks him out.
Fine. If you're gonna frisk me, though that sweep of my inner right thigh was pretty half-assed.
However, Larry is here for business and tries to bring Mike onto a job that turns out is killing a lady, which is very much against Mike's sensibilities. But Mike realizes that to keep the Deadee
That's my term. It's trademarked.
safe, Mike needs to accept this job. Also, during the sales pitch, Larry throws the forged dossier in Mike's face, but also laments Mike didn't actually start to become like Larry, even as much as Larry would love for Mike to have gone a little bit more wild. Again, their backstory is a mystery now, but becomes clearer towards the end of the series. It does allude a little bit to Mike's past dealings with him. And believe me, we will find out how psychopathic he really is later, even if killing for hire isn't enough evidence for that. And unfortunately, Mike's clients owe a debt of gratitude to Larry, because if it wasn't for Larry, he wouldn't be the spy he is currently. Anyway, Mike pries for information, and Larry isn't too keen on revealing the intel, forcing Mike to learn about it on the fly. Larry then tempts Mike with money, but Mike counters in order to keep Larry off his scent, which goes to show how devious Mike can actually be. Then Mike meets Fee and her new boy toy, Campbell. And basically, the only thing that we need to know about him is he's currently dating Fee and he's an EMT. But in order to talk with Fee, Mike shoos Campbell away in order to discuss the new job. Fee picks up a hint of jealousy, but she reluctantly agrees to help Mike. As they arrive to the location of the Deadee, Mike briefly discusses his history with Larry and explains to Fee how Larry faked his death. Then he instructs Fee to get Jeannie, the Deadee, alone to explain her situation to her. And after Fee's pen explodes on Jeannie, she has to go to the restroom where Mike is there to explain she is marked for death and that he is the one who is getting paid to do it.
Okay, but I'm not going to, all right? I'm on your side.
However, in this meeting, Mike learns that the likely candidate for this job is her stepson, Drew, who believes she is only involved with his dad for the money. And after they figure this out, Mike explains how Fee is going to be staying with her for a bit. After that, Mike is at the loft when Maddie shows up while Mike is changing and sees his bruises and is concerned. And this is good attention to detail because last episode, Mike was getting his butt handed to him by drug dealers. However, he brushes her off, but she still convinces him to go to counseling again. She then ends up guilt tripping him into joining her, just like a mother, to use psychological warfare to get what she wants. It is insane how much he learns from her, but the show only ever gives credit to the father. Then Sam meets with Mike to provide intel on Bill Johnson that he got with some of his mojo.
Now all my buddies are guys.
We learn that Bill was set up, much like Mike, with Sam even offering to help plant a bug at Bill's house. But Mike is too busy with
Larry.
Larry? Dead Larry?
This is where Sam shows his superego side, warning Mike that Larry is bad news, but Mike reassures Sam that his only involvement is to stop Larry, prompting Sam to lend a hand.
Well, in that case, can I help?
Meanwhile, Fee is at Jeannie's and she explains her love for her husband, but Fee uses this opportunity to snoop on Drew, but also plant a bug while she's at it, and finds a copy of Jeannie's appointment books showing how Larry got a little bit of his information on the Deadee. Quickly after she is snooping, Drew returns, meaning Fee needs to disappear. Good thing Drew is an idiot. However, thanks to the bug, they find out Drew has added a few more hitmen to the roster, complicating this job even further. Finally, Larry meets Sam when Larry shows up to inform Mike on the house guests, but Mike explains Drew's double booking.
Double book the job.
He said it!
Has complicated this job way more. Larry then grabs a screwdriver to assert his power and dominance. Then shortly after, while his back is turned, Mike picks up another screwdriver in case Larry went a little too far. Although this wasn't necessary because Mike talks him down and convinces Larry that the smart play would be to call off the hit. This rage-fueled episode really shows what kind of person Larry is. Then Mike meets with Drew, portraying
I'm Drew's friend. We met on the internet, Facebook buddies.
Larry, and in this scene, Mike parrots a lot of Larry's mannerisms and jargon, which is very top-notch, and it also shows how well these two actually know each other, again alluding to their past history. But while doing this, Mike convinces Drew to call off and puts fear into his heart in order to get the job done. From one tense scene to Mike's nightmare, even to the fact that he is sleeping as the therapist explains his method. And after Mike wakes up, the therapist talks about negativity and he motions to Maddie in an obvious way, but only calls out Maddie when she speaks up, which is pretty funny. Also, the therapist instructs both of them to make a list of things that they're grateful to each other for. But right after the meeting, Mike returns to work looking for a cover ID to vacate Bill's landlord when Maddie outfits Mike with a cover ID using an exterminator uniform and lying that her dog could get really sick. And this gives Mike and Sam the opportunity to search Bill's house and plant a bug. During the search, they find a crossword cipher.
You know, she needs to freshen it up a little bit. Try the jumble for a change.
This confirms even further that Bill is actually working with Carla. Also, during this scene, the paper actually reveals where the shooter is supposed to be. 4th floor in a conference room, and this helps Mike know where to go. During the sweep, Larry calls to check in, and Mike informs him that he doesn't need to do that, but Mike also brushes Larry off, and Sam has a good point.
He's got a weird thing for you.
It's because he doesn't have any friends.
That's because he's killed most of them, Mike.
Now, I'm more of a fan of show rather than tell, but when it comes to spy adventures, I'd rather take the mystery times than not, because sometimes it is the mystery that propels the spy adventure. And what's seen is the reaction to what is said, and that gives us all the information we as the audience need. Anyway, Mike returns to Drew's in order to follow up on the firing of the other hitman, but notices Drew is hiding behind a door and dispatches him. Turns out Drew couldn't hold up his end of the bargain, and unfortunately Mike can't get a hold of Fee or Jeannie, and with one of the hitmen on his way to complete the mission, Mike has to seem like he's going to kill Drew so that Drew would give up some more information, and Mike instructs Drew to get out of town. Mike then leaves, steals a truck to hopefully save Jeannie and Fee. Also, it's interesting that Jeannie drives a Prius. All that money and all she got was a Prius. She really did marry for love. Meanwhile, the hitman is barreling towards Jeannie while Mike is trying to catch up. Thankfully, he not only catches up, he passes and forces the dump truck into the bed of his truck, which is an amazing scene. Then Fee recognizes Mike, stops for him after he dispatches the hitman. And Campbell, I hate to say it, but Fee still loves Mike. Notice how tenderly she escorts him to the car. That right there is love. At the loft, Mike explains to Larry that he is clear, and seemingly Larry leaves. Also interesting, after his shake sink with Larry, Mike wipes his hands, implying how dirty Larry can be. The next day, Sam reveals a recording of Bill, and they realize that Carla put the screws to him just as hard as they do with Mike. Then Mike gets a call from Drew telling him that the job is still on, and some guy named Michael Weston is going to carry out the hit, twisting the knife to Mike and confirming Larry is the one who reopened the hit by force. And the next day, when Fee is recognized by Jeannie, she knows something isn't right, which she's correct. Mike explains there is still one more killer after her. At the loft, Sam scolds Mike for his lackluster security, but Mike brushes it off, and Sam reveals that Larry is planning on something nasty if the random pharmacy fire is linked to him in any way. Also, he plans on killing Larry at the money drop. Sam volunteers to do it, but Mike insists it has to be him that gets rid of him. At the lunch, Fee is looking for Larry, and she finds him spraying Jeannie's fork, and this job requires Campbell to use his ambulance. And how he doesn't get fired for just this, I will never understand. Meanwhile, Mike sets up his sniper perch. Then Fee explains to Jeannie what to do, and Campbell and Sam save Jenny. Also, the third person in the ambulance doesn't get a name, but I've always felt like she is the friend that helps Sam get the intel on Bill. After that, Drew shows up to pay Larry for the job, and Drew leaves the money to bring Larry out into the open. It works, and because of Mike's compassion, he won't kill an almost innocent man just to kill Larry, even though Mike knows that Larry is going to kill Drew. Anyway, Mike has a sense of nobility. He can't cross certain lines, which in Larry's world means that he's weak. Then Mike briefly talks with Larry, and Mike pleads with Larry to stay in Buffalo. Then Mike goes to therapy with his mom. He tries to cheap on the grateful list by using eyesight.
Vision? Are you serious?
Yeah, and I feel like he should have been more grateful on the fact that she stayed with his dad, because without his influence, he wouldn't be the spy he is today. However, then Maddie reveals that she forged a form to let Mike go into the army, meaning Maddie is the reason all of the clients and missions Mike has been on and the people he's helped is all due to Maddie. And this all stemmed from her fear that Mike was going to end up in jail or something even worse.
Ends up in the electric chair.
And even though it pained her, she knew he needed to focus on something good. Then the therapist attempts to take credit for the revelation, but Maddie and Mike unanimously kick him out. Afterwards, Mike thanks Maddie, something that he really should say a lot more often. Ending the episode following Bill to find out where Carla is setting up for the op. And finally, we figure out where the badge he stole is used for, meaning Mike needs to infiltrate the building to get a leg up on Carla. This episode introduced one of the best worst villains, Larry. He is definitely a formidable opponent in the coming season, but more on that a little bit later. And then I will start exploring what could have happened if Larry died here. Also, it is interesting, Larry says it twice, and Mike says it portraying Larry. Some people live, some people die. Initially, Larry says it about Jeannie offhandedly. Mike then uses it as a threat to Drew and as the final farewell from Larry. Both times, Larry uses it as sort of a calling card, something he uses as a period in a conversation. Mike uses it in order to scare Drew in an aggressive way, but also showing that Mike is being Larry. And this also shows that Mike understands Larry in a whole nother way than anybody else. And Larry uses it foolishly as a way to tempt the old Mike from coming out that we haven't seen, because what happened with Larry solidifies who Mike is today. Very similar to the two sons of an alcoholic. The first son says, my dad is an abusive alcoholic, so that's what I need to be. Whereas the other son says, I hate my father and I'm going to be the exact opposite. And we know that Mike leans towards the second son. Also, Mike learns a little bit about Bill and Carla's escapades. Were very welcome welcomed, and it didn't bog down the episode, and it sets up an amazing mid-season finale. Thanks for watching. If you're curious on how an FBI team solves murders with psychology, check out my other series, Inside Criminal Minds, link in the description. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.